Welcome to Yandere, where we have serious discussions about absurd entertainment.
I lost my folks in the Middle East thanks to a 1600-year-old fight about 3 takes on the same darn god. Minen Uryu the Ninth.
So, we're talking about Future Diary today.
Yes. So we're turning from our hiatus. Thank you for being patient. Everything seems to be fine, ? Anyway, we're making another podcast episode.
Mm-hmm.
And we decided to do it on the diary, on the anime called Future Diary.
Mm-hmm.
We just recently did Danganronpa, so it feels like this is a good follow-up to that.
Yep.
And it's short enough that we think we can get it in a single episode, but we might have to rush. We're going to see how it goes.
Mm-hmm.
Kira, why don't you try... I'm Kyle. She's Kira, by the way.
Yes, I'm Kira.
Why don't you pitch what Future Diary is, and then I'll pitch what it is.
Future Diary is an anime about a death game.
That's all you got?
That's where I'm starting with you.
All right. It has a lot of time travel involved.
Yep.
Here's how I would say it. Future Diary is the Yandere show.
Oh, yes.
If you've ever heard of a Yandere, it's a kind of trope in anime where you have, for example, tsundere is a woman that's interested in a male character but doesn't ever admit it. You might have heard, the thing of where she goes, baka, Japanese for idiot, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yandere is another version of that, where she is into a male character, deathly so.
To the point where she will kill anyone who stands in the way of her being with him.
Right. And, it's a trope, so take that as you will.
Mm-hmm.
And while Future Diary didn't invent the trope, it gives the most well-known prolific example of the yandere, and I think does a pretty interesting job with depicting it.
Yep, definitely.
However, there are some questionable elements of this anime that we need to disclaim immediately.
Yeah, the main characters of this series are 2 14-year-olds. Even if you have to do math to figure that out as a viewer.
Oh yeah, we've talked about it before, but we don't know why anime loves to portray teenagers so much, but it's a problem.
It's particularly a problem because the characters, especially the girls, are sexualized despite being underage.
This is disturbingly common in anime, and we're planning on doing an entire episode on this topic in the future, but we wanted to give a trigger warning for that. It's so annoying how anime will depict characters that honestly look like they're adults. Mm-hmm. Even if they're in a school setting, you might be like, oh, well, they're 18, they're in high school or whatever. So it's still really not clear. Right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And the whole thing of living with your parents also isn't an indicator either. Plenty of adults live with their parents.
Mm-hmm.
So it's when you see anime like this, and then like halfway through it, you're given a little piece of information that's like, wait, you're a kid? Are you kidding me?
Yeah.
Especially when they use sexualization and other dark themes like this show does.
Oh yeah, definitely.
It's really disturbing, and we don't care for it. We don't approve of it. But Future Diary is a pretty acclaimed anime for its other reasons and other story points. This, I think, is an anchor that just adds unnecessary controversy to it. Mm-hmm. Again, I am of the opinion that when in doubt, 18 or over, don't make kid characters in your show unless there's a reason for them to be kids.
Mm-hmm. Yep. I definitely agree with you there.
So we're going to talk about this, but be aware that's an issue. Also, I wanted to bring up that some people have talked about the way this show talks about mental illness.
Oh, yeah.
And I understand if anyone with any type of mental illness or possibly neurodivergence might empathize with a character that seems to show those traits. But I do not think that this show is an indictment on such people. For example, the Yandere character. Some people might try to conflate, mental illness led to her being super murdery. I can see how you can take that, and that's a valid take from the show, but I don't think it's purposefully making that claim.
Yeah, I don't think it is either.
Because there are many characters that seem to be completely fine with regards to mental illness or neurodivergence. Like there's a cop character, there's a detective character, there is a serial killer. But there are characters that aren't shown to have any type of mental illness. It's not just the Yandere situation or trauma abuse victims. There are characters that have their mental faculties about them and are still horrible pieces of crap.
Yeah.
So it really does to me, and not only that, but there are characters that have suffered abuse and trauma, and they don't go on murderous rampages.
Yeah, exactly. So I don't think it plays into that trope of abuse makes you into a psychopath as much as people like to say it does.
Well, if you focus on only a few characters, I can see how that conclusion can come about.
Yes, fair enough, but there's a whole cast of characters.
It kind of does the anime thing where like every character has like a tragic backstory, and that's both for the mentally ill as well as the mentally unill.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, so let's actually get on with the show because we don't have a ton of time. We just wanted to address some understandable controversies with this show, and we're gonna actually talk about the story and give our thoughts along the way as we get to it. Keep in mind, we're doing a chronological telling of the story, which is going to be very different from when you first watch it. If you watch the anime, basically 2/3 of the story have already happened by the time you watch the first episode.
Spoilers.
Okay, World 1. From the beginning of time, there existed an otherworldly plane of existence within the universe called the Cathedral of Causality. And within this plane, there would be the Akashic Records, a universal compendium of all knowledge and history.
The arbiter of the records would go by the title Deus Ex Machina, or Hand of God.
During the development of humanity on Earth, Deus watched over them with a hands-off approach, trying to interfere only when necessary.
At some point, Deus took pity on a young Indian orphan with dwarfism. He adopted her, cared for her, and gave her some of his power. She became a sort of trickster demigod named Murmur, and she would often come down to Earth to mess with people. The relationship between her and Deus came to be that of a parental relationship, with Deus caring for Murmur like a father.
Oh, this just reminds me, by the way, that searching for info online about this anime is kind of a headache because a lot of the people that like this show don't really like critically analyze the relationships contained within it. No insult, but I'm just saying the wikis leave a lot to be desired.
Yep.
Sometime later, Deus feared Murmur wouldn't be able to control the full extent of her power, and so he gave her some restraints to allow her to better control it.
Over a decade ago, Marco Ikusaba and Ai Makami met as orphans on the day Ai's parents abandoned her. They grew up in the same orphanage run by Kamado Ushita and eventually started dating when they reached high school.
Mine and Uryu's parents died when she was 8, leaving her to survive on her own in a Middle Eastern country.
Yuno Gasai was adopted by the wealthy Gasai family at an early age and given a piece of her umbilical cord as a keepsake from her birth parents. Yuno's parents were high-ranking executives of a bank, and a retinal scan from either of them, as well as Yuno, was capable of opening the vault door.
That seems a little weird to me, but, it kind of reminds me of, like, circumcision or whatnot. Some of those weird, like, birth or genital-related customs. I don't know if this is a thing in Japan.
It may not be a thing in Japan, but it's definitely a custom in some cultures to keep a piece of the umbilical cord as a sort of keepsake. There's even a culture where you keep it in a special beaded pouch that your mother makes for you that is like very complicatedly beaded, and like it's a very culturally significant thing.
Huh, okay. Tsubaki Kasagano was born to and raised by the couple that started the Omakata religion. She was kept at the temple because of her poor eyesight, and her mother gave her a handball that became her most prized possession. They told the others that she was clairvoyant, and kept this lie up for years. So she's like a blind prophet, basically.
Yep. 5 years ago, when Marco and I were in high school, some boys pretended to be Marco and tricked I into coming alone to a warehouse where they sexually assaulted her. Marco found her and beat up the perpetrators, killing one of them.
Yeah, that's their backstory. I mean, they're acknowledging rape as a bad thing. And it was done by people she knew, fellow classmates at school. Usually it's like, the bad way I think of portraying rape is like, oh, some evil person does it. And I guess they were kind of portrayed as evil, but they were still people that she knew, and that's how rape works. Oh my goodness, we forgot to do trigger warnings on this episode. Oh, I mean, we kind of did. Not enough. All trigger warnings. Lots of violence, okay? Killing and stuff.
Yep, and lots of sexual assault and rape.
Lots of it? Oh.
Yeah, lots of it.
I forgot about that part. Oh, no. Oh, no.
Yeah.
I literally, just kind of wiped it from my memory. I'm so sorry.
It's okay.
It's the worst part of the show. Raisuke Hojo was born and raised in the Omakata Temple, his parents being members of the Omakata cult.
2 years ago, Yuna's parents suffered severe financial losses, and her mother put her on a demerit system that was designed to punish any element of academic or social failure on Yuna's part. When Yuna was unable to live up to her mother's expectations, her mother introduced a cage with which she would imprison Yuno as punishment.
And here we get to the domestic abuse. Yuno's father thought the punishments were excessive, but he went along with them. He started working more and coming home less to avoid his family, responsibility, and culpability. The show does not do enough to indict the father, as they should, honestly.
Yep. Tsubaki Kasugana's parents were planning on taking her out of the temple and dismantling the Omakata religion. The second in command at the temple, Funatsu, decided he couldn't allow this to happen and killed her parents with a car bomb.
After her parents were killed, Funatsu took over the Omakata religion and convinced the others to cleanse their sins using Tsubaki's body. She was 12 years old at the time and became a sex slave to the followers of the religion. The handball her mother gave her, her only source of comfort, rolled away, and Tsubaki never found it. So this is just clearly an example of let's make the most edgy, traumatic, horrible, tragic backstory for one of the characters as we can. And let's also depict it in the show and make you watch. And it's literally the worst scene in the entire show. I hate it. It's garbage. This to me is more indicting than anything else in the show. And
I mean, seriously, they had to make her so underage for it, too.
I mean, I don't want to ever say, you can't talk about a taboo subject. If you want to talk about, a religious cult raping a child, I feel like, okay, but try to do it right. But I don't even know what the right way is. I feel like
treat it with tact. Don't literally show it.
Yeah, don't just show it and have it formulate the opinion of a sort of villain in the show for a single episode.
Takeo Hayama, an English teacher at Yuno's school, was a serial killer who cornered young women alone and stabbed them to death.
1 year and 1 month ago, Yuno locked her parents in the cage that her mother had used to punish her. So she got revenge on them. She locked them in the cage.
Her parents alternated between begging to be let out and berating Yuno for locking them up in the first place.
Yeah, they do that thing where it's like, oh, please let us out. And Yuno's like, well, you used to do this to me all the time, so I'm doing it to you now. And then they would just curse at her and call her the B word and whatnot. She left them in there, neglecting them until they starved to death several days later. And, here's the thing, we talk about mental illness and whatnot. I don't blame Yuno at all.
Yeah.
Maybe murdering your abusive parents is a disproportionate response. But considering what you went through, I'm not going to blame you. I get it.
Yep. Yukitaro Amano's parents separated and got a divorce.
1 year and 1 week ago, Yuno was staying after school because she couldn't figure out what to write for an assignment about her future dream. So she asked Yuki, the only other student left, what he put, and he told her that he wanted to go stargazing with his family, which was now divorced. She offered to go stargazing with him, and when he refused as she wasn't his family, she suggested that they could get married and become a family. Yuki brushed that off as a joke, but agreed that they would marry when they're older. Yuno took this as a promise and began stalking him. I mean, I'm not saying you should ever stalk anyone, but she was really desperate for attention. And he did say that he would marry her. Don't commit like that if you don't mean it. Children?
Yeah.
Sorry.
1 year ago, Yuki had a crush on a girl in his class and planned to give her a love letter when they had to go shopping for a school event together. Dressed in a pink bunny suit, and stalked them, trying
Wait. When you say bunny suit, it's literally like a rabbit mascot outfit?
Yes.
You needed to specify that.
Yeah. She tried to take the letter before Yuki could give it to his crush. Yuki managed to give the letter to the girl, but was politely rejected, much to Yuno's relief.
So here we see the start of the whole Yandere thing. She gets very jealous over a perceived someone stealing her man. Mm-hmm. Deus realized he was starting the process of dying and decided to start the process of picking his successor.
He came into contact and became friends with John Bacchus, the mayor of Sakurami City.
John was the one who suggested that Deus pick his successor with diaries that told the future, using them in a killing game that would eventually choose that successor.
These diaries would be connected to their owners, and therefore, if the diary was destroyed, so was its owner.
Deus made the diaries and chose the participants, first narrowing the choice to those in Sakurami City because of John. Then the people Deus found would make the most interesting game.
He created a person to function as an observer of the game and possibly interfere on his behalf. His name was Aru Akise, and he was an orphan that was shortly adopted, attending the same school as Yuki and Yuno.
Yeah, so he's like an artificial human, basically, made by God. Mm-hmm. Because that's who Deus is. Deus is God, right?
Yeah.
And God just befriends a local mayor. Okay, then. And you want to pick your successor, but you're going to limit it to this one town? I mean, I guess they need to be geographically close to each other, otherwise you'd have to have plane flights to have the game happen.
Yeah, exactly. That's probably why he did it, because he figured it wouldn't be interesting unless they were nearby each other enough to make moves and try to kill each other close by.
You really get the feeling that Deus is like a laissez-faire jerk. Mm-hmm. He's just killing game. I guess it could work.
Yeah.
Also, I feel like he specifically tried to pick characters or participants that had these awful backstories. Yep. You get the feeling that he tried to pick people kind of down on their luck to give them a chance at godhood.
Yep.
Deus spoke directly to Yuki, and Yuki believed him to be an imaginary friend. Yuki is the main point of view character for the majority of the show. He's just your ordinary boy kind of thing, as a lot of anime does.
Yep. Deus had Murmur contact some of the other people he had chosen to give diaries to.
Minen killed a rookie policewoman named Natsuko and assumed her identity to infiltrate the police department in order to get close to a target, an important cardinal.
Minen was assigned to work with Nishijima, another officer, as security for the cardinal.
She attempted to kill the cardinal several times, but Nishijima showed up at the last second every time, thwarting her plans.
Natsuko's body was found with her name tag in her stomach, revealing Minen's deception.
Nishijima gave Minen a fake room number right above her own room, and they evacuated the cardinal to another location.
Minen planted a bomb on the roof of her room and set it off, running into Nishijima as she left, who confronted her with the fact that she was pretending to be Natsuko.
She managed to escape down a wire, but it was shot down by another officer.
Deus saved her, and Murmur appeared, touching her cell phone where she kept a record of escape routes and turning it into a future diary.
Murmur turned each of the other future participants' diaries into future diaries over the next year. So basically, normally you would write down your diary, today I did this, 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 and this. But now that it's a future diary, you load it up, and all that information is already there. So you already know what's going to be there. But it's as if a future version of you wrote it. Mm-hmm. Which means you have to deal with your own biases. Mm-hmm. Hers is an escape route. It only has information on escapes.
Mm-hmm. Murmur tried to give Takeo his future diary. However, being a serial killer, he assumed it was evidence of his crimes and broke it in half. This destroyed him, and Murmur had to ask Deus to revert the timeline to before he did this. This happened several times until Murmur was able to convince him to take the diary.
It was kind of funny that this kind of horrible serial killer character kept accidentally killing himself every time he tried to destroy the evidence.
Mm-hmm.
He's just like, what is this?
Yep.
The last one to receive a future diary was Yuki, as he still hadn't received his in the year Murmur had been giving them out. She really took her time.
Yep. Yuki came home from school one day and talked to his imaginary friend, Deus.
They spoke for a bit and Deus asked him if he wanted to play a game. Yuki didn't respond, however, by the next morning, Murmur had turned his diary into a future diary.
The game started since the last participant had been given his diary.
Minen made the first move and attempted to kill Takeo. However, he had a coat that was bomb and bulletproof.
She had to escape because of this and ran into Nishijima again. He handcuffed her and they ran away from Takeo together.
Minen and Nishijima trapped Takeo in an audio studio and set off a flashbang, incapacitating him.
They ran away and Minen shot Nishijima to get away from him. He was wearing a bulletproof vest, however, and survived.
Sometime later, Yuki had used his diary to get a good grade on a test, and Yuno noticed, deducing that Yuki had gotten his diary.
Yuno made a clay model of Murmur and left it on her desk to show Yuki she knew about his diary.
Yuno stalked Yuki and helped him when he was attacked by Takeo. They escaped Takeo and later were brought to the Cathedral of Causality with all the other diary holders.
Deus revealed to all of them the details of the game, how they were meant to kill each other until only one was left, and that they all had future diaries.
Deus introduced them all by number and kept their identities a secret. Yuki was first, Yuno was second, Takeo was third. A police officer named Kaigo Karusu was fourth, Raisuke was fifth, Tsubaki was sixth, I and Marco were both seventh. However, only Marco showed up as to keep the fact that there are two sevenths a secret. It's like a Gemini thing, Zodiac, whatever. Kamado was eighth. Minen was ninth. A dog breeder named Karyudo Tsukishima was 10th. John was 11th. And a vigilante named Yamatsu Hirasaka was 12th. From now on, we'll refer to them by their numbers because it's easier to keep track of than the Japanese names. No offense.
First and second were...
But the important one is first is the POV character Yuki. Second is Yuno, the Yandere. Remember that. And then ninth is the terrorist. The woman from the Middle East.
First and second were allies, which gave them an advantage as the game progressed and more people were eliminated. They became better at fighting as the game went on, and eventually they were among the few remaining.
11th, remember John, the guy who came up with the game? 11th hid in a bank vault to survive the game, but that was the bank vault that Second was able to access via retinal scanner, courtesy of her deceased wealthy parents.
After they killed 11th and the remaining players, First and Second became the last players alive. However, First had come to reciprocate Second's feelings, and the two of them fell in love.
First wanted to reject the game, and so they decided to make a suicide pact to die together. They spent their last days in an intimate partnership before taking poison pills to kill themselves, refusing to take on the responsibility of Deus.
However, Second only went along with First's suicide pact because she knew he was unwilling to kill her. She didn't want to win the game, she had wanted him to win. When First killed himself, she faked it and spit out the pills so that she could resurrect him if she became a god.
Second thus won the game and became the next Deus, ascending and absorbing all of his powers. However, she found that even a god could not resurrect the dead. So, there's many times in the show where you see Yuno being able to kill with, expert precision. There's literally a scene where someone's, shooting a machine gun at her, and she uses a sword to just, deflect the bullets. And it's okay, this is some anime logic. That's ridiculous. I guess she's a yandere and kills to protect her beloved, but that? And then when you find out, no, she's literally a god. That wasn't an exaggeration. That is literally her abilities. It's oh my goodness.
Yep. Second became depressed and refused to do her duty as a god to maintain causality, and so the universe fell into pieces, and the earth became a destroyed wasteland with all of humanity dead. She wandered the waste until she came up with the idea of going back in time and preventing this from happening.
And so Second traveled into the past to create a new timeline. Murmur, who now serves Second as her deity, went along with her to the past to assist her in any way she could. World Paradox. So the World Paradox is in between World 1 and World 2. It's from a spin-off manga. We'll cover it briefly.
Yeah. 1 year ago, Second arrived right after her past self killed her parents. She killed her past self and took her place.
Yuno is so yandere that she kills an alternate version of herself to keep her away from her beloved.
Yep.
Second delegated some of her powers to Murmur so she could imprison her past self without notice.
The Murmur who served Second, meanwhile, imprisoned her past self and took her place without Deus noticing.
So she's infiltrated.
Yeah.
Now the Murmur that serves Deus actually serves Yuno, the second.
Mm-hmm.
The game started when First was given his diary.
However, Murmur accidentally used her powers to make Second disappear from the world while making mochi, which immediately put all of their plans throughout this timeline would go into disarray.
I'm gonna make some food. Whoops! Oh my goodness, killed someone.
That's Murmur.
Sometime later, Third attacked First, and without Second there, he was injured.
Murmur rescued First by sending Akise to fight Third while she took First to a healing device she had stolen.
Although, it's weird that, Murmur was able to do that with Yuno, considering she was a god. So I guess that's why we said she must have delegated some of her powers to Murmur, so they were two demigods and one of them took each other out by accident.
Yeah.
Akise killed Third, and Murmur came back to tell him they must take First and Second's place until First was healed in a few days.
Akise took First's place, and Murmur took Second's place.
Ninth infiltrated First and Second's school and planted explosives around the whole place, making a minefield in the center of the courtyard.
Ninth confronted Akise and confirmed he had a future diary.
Akise's diary changed to reflect Ninth's plan to kill him, stating a dead end.
Akise and Murmur ended up being forced to confront Ninth in the courtyard with the minefield between them. Akise sent Murmur through the courtyard with a fake bomb strapped to her, scaring Ninth into leaving as she presumed the bomb was real.
So suicide bomb. Kamikaze.
I guess.
Wow. Akise and Murmur then went to the Omakata temple in an attempt to follow the timeline Murmur remembered. They discovered, however, that Funatsu was tricked into revealing he caused 6 parents' deaths. Murmur was angered by this change in the timeline and left.
Akise was suspicious of Murmur and went to the Cathedral Causality, where he found a robotic copy of her that she had made to take her place while she was with Akise.
How did Deus not notice that? Deus is not omniscient for what it's worth. He's kind of gullible. Akise went into the robot's memory banks as it was an exact copy, which had Murmur's memories.
He then confronted First, who was brainwashed by Murmur. First attacked Akise with a sword that would erase his memories.
Fifth, Sixth, both Sevenths, and one of Eighth's children from her orphanage helped Akise into the memory bank and dealt with Murmur while he looked at Murmur's memories.
Akise saw when Second killed her past self, but time was reset by Murmur, who had given up on making this timeline work. Akise lost his memories, and soon everyone else did too, as Murmur reset time to back when she and Second had initially arrived from the first world.
Okay, so World Paradox is basically a failed first attempt at changing time. You have World 1, the initial world. World Paradox is like, let's do World 2, but oh wait, we really messed up. Okay, start over. Now we're going to do World 2. You don't really even need to remember any of that because it was all a failed attempt. World 2. 1 year ago, after Second had killed her past self, Second was going to delegate some of her powers to Murmur so she could imprison her past self without notice. But Murmur knew that would be a bad idea and refused this time.
Murmur managed to successfully imprison her past self anyway, and she took her place without Deus noticing. Thus, she began scheming on Second's behalf to help accomplish her mission to protect First until he could eventually become Deus.
So that's what she's trying to do. She doesn't want to win the game. She wants her beloved Yuki to win the game. Mm-hmm. Murmur gave Second her past self's diary, turning it into a future diary. This meant Second now had 2 diaries, one of which was disposable because it had been her old past self's diary.
Mm-hmm. The game started. Episode 1. First was given his diary.
Second stalked First, and he was running away from her when she caught him in an elevator and told him about Third waiting to kill him. First and Second met Third on the roof, and Second gave First the opportunity to throw a dart into Third's diary, destroying him.
Deus then brought all the diary owners to the Cathedral Causality and introduced them, explaining the rules of the game that had started prematurely. He kept their identities a secret, referring to them by numbers. Finding out that First got the first kill of the game made some of the others want to target him. But Fourth declared he would protect First on his honor as a cop.
On his honor as a cop, sure.
He doesn't say that. It's just implied that that's why he said that.
I know. Yeah, I get that, and I'm mocking it. Like, he's like, don't worry, I'm a cop. I'll get you. I got you.
Yeah.
And anyway, I think what's interesting is that the divergence in the timeline, Yuki gets the first kill. Yuno's already, like Second is already helping out First quite a bit.
Mm-hmm.
Episode 2. Ninth infiltrated and secretly planted explosives all over First and Second's school, declaring that if the other students brought her first, she would let them all go. First and Second used their diaries to guide them through the explosives, but the other students overpowered First and threw him into the courtyard in the hopes of Ninth sparing them. Second was angered by this and set off the other explosives by running around the school as Ninth switched them to motion detection, thus killing a lot of students and teachers. Fourth arrived with other cops, revealing his case diary that recorded all the cases he was on and rescued First and Second from Ninth, who escaped but was wounded by a dart to the eye from First. So, this is going to be weird because Ninth is a character we spend a lot of time with over the story, and she starts off pretty horrible. She's literally a terrorist. But then she grows on you, and you're kind of just expected to forget that she murdered a bunch of children?
Yep.
And, like, literally bombed a school? Now, it's supposed to be morally complex because, like, well, technically...
Second was the one who ran around the school setting them off.
Yeah, she just planted the bombs. It was Second that set them off. And I'm like... So are you saying it's Second's fault for, like, dealing with the situation as best she could?
Well, to be honest, she did it in revenge because she was pissed at them for...
Actually, you know what? You're right. Yeah, she could have done it without killing everyone.
Yeah.
So they're both responsible, but still, they don't really want you to think about all the dead kids.
Yep. Episode 3. First and Second went on an amusement park date in an attempt to lure out Ninth. They went to Second's house afterwards. First went to go to the bathroom, but was distracted by a door that was closed off. As his diary said he wouldn't go in there, he decided to change this by looking. He found the bodies of Second's parents as well as her past self and freaked out before running away. This changed time by such an extent that every player's diary changed to account for this event.
Oh yeah, even Deus noticed this. Deus was like, I don't get what happened there, but that's going to be a significant divergence point. That changed time, that this is going to end completely differently now. And he's right, because First doesn't know who those 3 people are. But the fact that this girl he met, he's kind of getting chummy with, has 3 corpses in her house, that scares him.
I mean, he was scared by her before.
Just because she was good at fighting and whatnot. But now he sees 3 corpses in her house.
Yeah. Now he has evidence that she actually has killed people.
Yeah. Meanwhile, Ninth was running from the cops, but was taken by 12th to his log cabin. He drugged her, but also took her damaged eye out and bandaged her. Yeah, that was weird. It was kind of like he was trying to patch her up, but was eye amputation really necessary? Was it that far gone?
I think it was pierced, so yeah, I think it was unsalvageable.
I guess it's just it's compared to hospital care, it was much more brutal treatment, but he couldn't take her into the hospital.
Yeah. Episode 4. First realized he could not go to Fourth about the bodies because Second was stalking him. Fourth took first and second to the Omakata temple where ninth was taken. They all met Six, who explained how her diary worked. It recorded whatever her followers saw. It had a dead end, and she wished for first to protect her in exchange for ninth.
So she is kind of a clairvoyant now.
Yeah.
She can, her diary tells her what her followers would have told her eventually.
Mm-hmm. First agreed, but suddenly there was chaos as Six Futon erupted into flames and her followers began attacking the diary owners. They had been hypnotized by 12th. They played dead, and Second finished some of them off, then insisted that First leave Six behind.
Yeah, this part's weird because they really act like zombies, and when you find out that 12th hypnotized them, it's like, so many of them killed each other. Like, it was so brutal. There were axes and blood and everything. I thought you were all about justice. I thought you were a vigilante, 12th. Why are you, like brainwashing this cult? And it's kind of implied that 12th's like, they're all child rapists. I don't care.
Yeah.
Episode 5. 12th heard the future changed his diary, predicting his dead end. He let Ninth go and then attempted to hypnotize Second into killing Six. First, Second, and Six all tried to escape the temple when 12th confronted them. Second killed him, and then Six revealed her true intentions, having her followers restrain them. Six kissed First, and Second briefly freed herself, attacking Six and cutting off her hand. First ran away and hid, finding Sixth's old handball. Six used Second to lure First out, announcing she would have her followers gang rape Second. First confronted Six and threw the handball, distracting her followers long enough to throw a dart into her diary and destroy her. This was a lot of garbage, to be honest.
Yeah, this was the worst episode.
Like, literally, the way the story says it literally is that Six, being raped as a child, gave her a chip on her shoulder.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I highly doubt anyone writing this was actually really equipped to talk about the ramifications of child rape.
Yep. When Ninth was released, she ran into Fourth, who arrested her, questioned her, and then let her go in exchange for a promise. He had found out his son had a heart condition, and he made her promise she would help his son if she won the game.
Cops and terrorists working together. Yeah, that's unexpected. And not just everyday common parlance. At least it's not a white nationalist.
Yeah.
Episode 6. First's mom, Rhea, came home for a few days because one of her co-workers was killed in the Omakata cult massacre, and their child, Fifth, was orphaned. She had volunteered to take him in for a few days. Rhea met Second and encouraged her relationship with First. Fifth arrived and attempted to kill Second with scissors, making it look like an accident, but Second blocked him with a pillow. Okay, so basically, First's mom is like, "Oh, you're such a cute couple," and Second, holding a giant blade behind her back, was like, "Oh, I guess I don't have to kill you." She doesn't say that, but
she had a duffel bag full of killing tools that she was ready to use on Rhea if Rhea didn't approve.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And then Fifth, the kid, is now trying to kill the other two.
Yeah.
And when I say kid, like he's like a toddler.
He's like 5 years old.
Yeah.
By this point. Episode 7. Fifth made several more attempts on First and Second's lives, poisoning their meal and trying to electrocute Second in the bath, but they all failed. First realized Fifth was a diary owner and tried to find Fifth's diary while Second attempted to kill Fifth outright to get it over with. Second accidentally knocked Rhea out, but they patched her up. First and Second both realized Fifth had ordered his diary to be delivered when he was with Rhea at a convenience store the other day. The delivery arrived, and First opened it just as Second told him not to, releasing poison gas into the air. Fifth explained it was a trap, as one side of the package did have access to the diary, and he wore a gas mask. Fifth ran away, and Second chased him as First had been knocked out by the gas. Second managed to kill Fifth, but was knocked out shortly afterward.
So this kid was really good at killing.
Yep.
Poison gas, a gas mask? Are you kidding me?
Yep.
Now, Second kills him, and here I think the show is actually trying to talk about child murder. You know, she has to kill a kid to survive. And it's really morally complicated because you feel sorry for the kid, but you also know they kind of had to. Mm-hmm. And it's a kid.
And
you know?
she's kind of a kid herself. She's only 14.
Well, again, though, the show doesn't make that clear. When you're watching it, she looks like an adult compared to this child.
Yeah, true.
But so she's killing this toddler, and unlike the whole school bombing situation, they actually show it. Mm-hmm. And so I don't know. I feel like that's how you do the moral complexity of effectively a child soldier with at least a bit of decency.
Mm-hmm. Ninth was called by Fourth and told that First likely had a diary user at his house. Ninth went to First's house and found First and Second knocked out, then gave them the antidote to the poison gas.
Episode 8. 10th transferred his diary to his daughter. First made friends with Kusaka Ueji, Hinata Hino, and Mao Nanosaka at school, and decided to go to a park with them. Second begrudgingly decided to go with them as well. She didn't like that he had friends now. At the park, Hinata ran off on her own and appeared to be attacked by dogs. Akise introduced himself to the group, and they escaped the dogs at the observatory. Akise told First that he had been investigating Third's murders, Ninth's bombing of the school, and the incident at Sixth Temple. First was forced to use his diary to prevent the dogs from breaking in. Mao held a knife to First's throat and took his diary. Hinata revealed she had a diary and had faked her death.
Episode 9. Hinata said that she was only after Akise's diary as he had been spying on her father, 10th, which led him to assume Akise was a rival diary user. Akise proposed a guessing game for First's safety. Akise won, however, Second realized he was not actually using a diary and called him out on it. Second attacked Hinata, and then First, Second, Kosuko, and Akise ran away from the observatory. First came back to speak to Hinata, and Second threatened to kill her and the others. First calmed her down by declaring her his girlfriend. First and Hinata talked and decided to remain friends. Hinata's father used a speaker on a dog to apologize to her before he was killed by Fourth.
Yeah, so basically, First calms calms Second's murderous rage down to the whole complicated incident and tensions between their new friends that were related to another diary user by saying, "Oh, well, we're dating now. Be nice, yay!" Mm-hmm. And that works. It completely works on her.
Yep.
What?
Yeah, 10th was killed by Fourth because he was a cop, and 10th had been doing murders with his dogs before this.
Right, so it was on the job sort of thing, just a bit extrajudicial.
Yep.
Episode 10. Second buried the corpses that First saw. First and Second went to a bridal fair and then went back to Second's house. Second acted like First had never been there before and appeared to have rewritten her own memories, completely blocked the event. Akise and First discussed Second's instability and how she didn't remember what she had done. Fourth framed First and Second as suspects for 10th's murder. Uh-oh. Mm-hmm. The cop framed them? What? I love that the show makes the cop a bad guy. I love it.
Yeah. Episode 11. Fourth struck a deal with Ninth. First and Second were brought into the police station, and Fourth got First into an interrogation room. Fourth broke his alliance with First and forced him to play Russian roulette. Second saved him by shooting Fourth, and they both fled. However, they were now able to be tracked by Fourth's case diary, as they had both committed crimes. Ninth trapped First and Second in the hospital with Fourth's wife and son. Fourth demanded Ninth hand First and Second over, but she refused and broke her deal with him. Ninth then helped First and Second and told them about Fourth's family.
So now they're allied with the terrorist instead of the cop.
Yeah.
Also, it's interesting. The cop's diary is a case diary, so he had to legally book them for his diary to have any effect on them.
They had to commit a crime for his diary to work.
Yes. Episode 12. First was taken hostage by Fourth, but Second threatened him with a grenade and he let First go. Ninth ran into Nishijima again, he cuffed them together. Oh, I forgot they have the nice cop character.
Yeah.
Well, you know what? The only nice cop is one who stops being a cop, and that eventually happens.
Yeah.
The bomb Ninth set in Fourth's son's ward went off, and so Ninth and Nishijima went running. Fourth managed to get Second at knife point in the aftermath of the bomb, and First pointed a gun at them. First and Second's diaries both stated that First would miss and hit Second, but he declared that he loved Second and hit Fourth. Nishijima and Ninth showed up, as Ninth had shown Nishijima what Fourth was doing, and Nishijima tried to arrest Fourth. However, Fourth broke his diary himself and declared he was confident First would win the game, thus killing himself. A lot of complicated stuff, but basically, Fourth had his whole, dying son motivation, and in the end, both he and his son get killed.
No, oh, wait, yeah,
His son dies in the bomb.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was wondering how they survived. They didn't.
Nope.
Yeah.
Again, kids dying off screen.
Yep. Episode 13. Dea spoke to Murmur and realized she had told Fourth about his son's illness earlier than expected. She admitted to it and excused it by wanting to speed up the game so that they have a winner before he died. She then bet that Second would win the game, while Deus bet First would win. First and Second were going on a stargazing trip, but Second detoured them to an abandoned hotel and held First hostage to keep him safe.
She drugged him, too.
Akise, Kosuka, Hinata, and Mao searched for First. Akise, Kosaka, and Mao ended up trapped in a room that started to fill up with gas.
This is so bad. So basically, Second decides the only way to keep First safe is to literally tie him up, hold him hostage, drug him, and abuse him, and be horrible. She's not just killing she's now taking preventative measures. And
Yeah.
Episode 14. Kosaka's blog was turned into a future diary by Eighth, and he followed its predictions to free Akase, Mao, and himself. They confronted Second, and Hinata kicked First's key to him. First freed himself, then slapped Second, and left with Akase, Kosaka, Hinata, and Mao. This is why it's good to have friends outside of an abusive relationship. Just saying.
Episode 15. Deus explained Eighth's diary to the others. It was a blog that could turn others' phones into future diaries, but the phones needed connection to her server to work. Nishijima took First, Akise, Kosuka, Hinata, and Mao to Kosuka's family estate, as they expected an attack from Eighth's followers. Second turned off the power to the house, and First tied her up. Kosuko and Akise went to turn off the cell tower to sever Ace followers' connection to her server. Ace followers broke into the house, then knocked out Hinata and Mao. The cell tower was turned off, and Ace followers revealed to First and Second that they were actually the duo of Seventh, and both had diaries that predicted each other's futures. First let Second free, and Seventh fought them. Seventh ended up taking both First and Second's diaries, then fleeing.
Episode 16. First and Second recovered in the hospital with Ninth's help, and First's dad, Kuro, showed up. First got into a friendly competition with his dad, and his dad won. Seventh kidnapped Kuro and took him to Sakurami Tower, where First and Second followed him to get him back. Seventh married at the tower. They actually did have a beautiful relationship.
Yeah, they did. Episode 17. The tower was blown up, and Kuro escaped with a parachute, leaving his son behind. Second killed one of Seventh, and as the rubble fell, the other Seventh, Marco, was impaled. First and Second helped them be together in their last moments. Marco then gave them his parachute, and they fled the tower. When Kuro landed, he was confronted by Rhea and murdered her. When First and Second touched down, Nishijima told First that his mother, Rhea, had been killed.
First's father was such a deadbeat dad.
He was so awful.
And he literally murders his mother. All he wanted was for them to be together, and his father literally murders his mom.
You know, I really don't get why Seventh didn't just break First and Second's diaries the first chance
Because
they
they
got
were
them.
nice. They didn't want to murder them. Seventh weren't really bad guys.
I guess they only did that at Ace's request, and then they just went and did what they wanted, which was to get married at the tower before they died.
Yeah, that's what they were doing. Episode 18. First asked Deus to bring his mother back and was told that he couldn't, though Murmur told him he could save his mother if he won the game, which was a lie. Kuro stayed with First in the house he had lived in with his mom. First suspected Kuro had killed his mother and tried to obtain proof by following Kuro. When First caught up to him, Kuro confessed and agreed to turn himself in. I mean, give him the most minimal of credit, I guess, right?
Yeah.
But then some of 11th's men showed up and killed Kuro. And First killed some of them. Second finished them off, and First attempted to kill her, but he couldn't bring himself to do it. So, First and Second have a schism in their relationship. Second's like, go ahead, kill me. And First just can't bring himself to do it. So, it is an abusive kind of relationship, but First has opportunities to be done with her.
Episode 19. 11th approved the destruction of Ace Orphanage. Nishijima and Akise investigated the third corpse that was at Second's house. First and Second found out who 11th was and teamed up with 8th to take him down.
Also, being a mayor of a city is a huge unfair advantage.
Yep. 11th, however, jammed 8th's orphan's diary signals, so First and Second betrayed 8th, who fled with 11th. 9th and Akise showed up, while First and Second were pursuing 8th and 11th. Akise explained to First that the third corpse was proven by DNA taken from Second's umbilical cord to be Yuno Gasai. This called into question who Second could be.
Oh yeah, because they don't know about the time travel shenanigans yet, so they're like, you're not Yuno. Yuno is dead. Who the bleep are you?
Yep.
Episode 20, 11th convinced 8th to upload her server diary to his supercomputer, so everyone in the city would have future diaries, expanding 11th's observation diary to see everyone in the city. His diary is basically just the NSA. Kosaka, Hinata, and Mao teamed up with 9th and Nishijima to take out 11th's supercomputer, and they all attempted to raid 11th's towers. Kosaka, Hinata, and Mao were taken hostage. 9th lost her hand and Nishijima was killed. First and Second arrived to take advantage of the raid as a distraction.
Episode 21. First took civilians hostage to corner 11th, and Second freed Kosaka, Hinata, and Mao. 11th was hidden in the vault only the Gasai family could open. 9th turned on First.
Can I stop you? We kind of glossed over it, but when they betrayed 8th, they killed all of her orphans.
Yep. So more child killing.
Yes, but now First and Second are doing it, and they're geared up. They got assault rifles now. They're storming 11th's fortress. They're taking hostages, killing them.
They're determined to win the game now.
At this point, First literally has a list of everyone he's killed, and he's updating the list so that, like, when he becomes God, he can bring them back. And Second knows this is a lie and goes along with it.
Yep.
And even though Second's not apparently, First is like, I don't care. I love you for who you are. They've kind of fallen in love now. Mm-hmm. First has decided to fully lean in with this abuser.
And it's because partially his parents died, and he kind of snapped and decided he would do whatever it took to bring them back.
Yeah, they're at the top of his list of people to bring back. Mm-hmm. And I kind of, here, finish your paragraph. I'm going to say my next bit.
All right. 9th turned on First and attempted to kill him, but was shot. She decided to use her last bomb in an attempt to allow First to access 11th, but it didn't work, and she destroyed herself by breaking her diary. Second tried to kill 8th, but Akise prevented her from doing so, and she left to help First. Second sent First to destroy the supercomputer, then entered the vault and killed 11th.
And this was supposed to be like, what? But I thought you weren't but then how did the retinal scanner work? And it's because she's a different
Yep.
So one thing I absolutely love about this show is the sheer contempt it has for its main protagonist.
Yeah, it does not pull punches in saying that, Yuki is a terrible person now.
Yeah, Yuki's whole thing, his thing was that he's just an ordinary guy. And so when a murderous person comes into his life and says, hey, wanna do bad with me? He goes, sure. Mm-hmm. That's his thing of the evil that he's willing to get into. And yeah, he was kind of manipulated into it. He was in a traumatic position, but it doesn't change the evil that he does.
And like Hinata was orphaned as well, and she doesn't turn into an evil person.
Exactly. Akise is an orphan too.
Yep.
He's an artificial human, but he's still an orphan.
Mm-hmm.
So the sheer contempt it has, they frame, like, For most of the show, First is the POV character. That changes here. 9th is now the POV character.
Oh, yeah.
First is a bad guy.
Yep.
First is just the person helping out Second.
Yep.
The person with assault rifles killing children. And now 9th, who had killed some children questionably in the early episodes, is now the good guy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and like 9th and First get into an argument because she wanted to save Nishijima, but he ended up getting killed. And she was really upset over getting Nishijima killed.
Yeah. So I love the fact that they insult the generic hot-headed kind of protagonist. That's just an archetype that you don't want to be.
Mm-hmm.
You need to be your own person and stand for something, anything, if you don't want to be kind of manipulated into being an awful person.
Mm-hmm.
Episode 22, Akise met with Deus, and Deus told him that the winner would not be able to bring back the dead, as well as that Akise was created by him. Eighth granted Akise a future diary, and him, Kosaka, Hinata, and Mao all decided to protect Eighth. She runs an orphanage. She has no tragic backstory. She just cares about kids in the show that does not like kids living.
Yeah.
First and Second pursued Eighth, but Akise held Second up while the others tried to take Eighth to higher ground. First followed them and shot all his friends down when they tried to tell him he couldn't bring the dead back.
Because Akise told all his friends that.
Yeah. So literally his friends are saying, first, please, Yuki, you gotta stop this. This is not going to help anyone. Kill. Then another friend comes up. Please don't do this. Kill. And like at one point, Hinata's like, you know what? You're a... I can't say the word, but like, you're an a-hole.
Yeah.
And kills her too.
Yep.
He had a choice. He had other friends. He had lifelines.
Mm-hmm.
And he chose, he chose Second. Mm-hmm. He chose himself, his parents, his dead parents.
Mm-hmm.
Akise caught up and tried to tell First about Second's lie himself, but she slashed his throat. However, he managed to break Second's past self's diary. He continued to walk forward with the decapitated head.
Well, as he's walking, she decapitates his head.
Yeah, like his body keeps moving forward before it falls over, and he holds up a message on his phone to give to First, and then falls over, dead. And the message on the phone basically says, there are two worlds and this is the second one.
Mm-hmm. Episode 23. Deus died and Murmur gathered his remains, taking his place until someone won the game.
So now she's a god.
Mm-hmm. First and Second realized the world would end on July 28th and go back to Second's house. They spent a few days together and had sex. Okay.
They're what? Age. Why couldn't you just make them adults? Why?
Yeah, I know. First told Second what the message on Akise's phone was, which explained how she had won the first game and went back in time. And then Second began attacking him. Murmur showed First that this was true, that Second had gone back in time.
Episode 24. First and Second argued about what she did, but eventually First was thrown off a ledge. Ninth saved him, having been given some of Deus's power before he died, so she had survived that bomb blast. Deus had figured out Murmur and Second were from a previous timeline. She then explained to him that Second was likely just going to time leap again, and so they time leapt after her. Second created a third world before the game ever started.
World 3. 2 years ago. Second's past self was locked in a cage. Ninth and First arrived and let her out, but Second showed up. Second revealed she had kidnapped First's parents from this world, then First and Ninth fled.
Ninth brought First with the past Second to his old school and dropped him off. Ninth then made a phone call to this world's Fourth to warn him of his son's heart condition.
Fulfilling her promise.
That was nice.
Yep. Second and Murmur attacked First, then Ninth joined to fight Murmur. Second trapped First in a fantasy world where his family was still together. Second released Murmur's sealed bracelets and Murmur beat Ninth. Second prepared to kill her past self.
Oh yeah, so with Murmur, with god powers now, and without her restraints, she becomes like an outright demon. She's just like massacring now.
Mm-hmm.
Episode 25. Second's parents arrived to help her past self. First broke free of the fantasy world, and the futures of all diary holders have changed in this world. Second and First embraced, and First insisted that Second kill him, but killed herself instead, allowing First to finally win the game.
Murmur gave First the Deus powers and took him back to the second world, which he was god of now. The second world was destroyed, however, and First was too depressed to create anything for a long, long time.
One thing I think that's interesting, so you have the fight between the murmurs, right?
Yeah.
And so God Murmur is banished back with whatever. But crap, whatever happened to her? I forget.
The second murmur?
Oh well, I think
we're about to find out.
We're about to get to that. But one thing I think is interesting is that the third version of Yuki isn't even mentioned about. The show does not give a crap about this character anymore.
Yeah.
The moment that the original Yuki first becomes God, he wins the game. It's like, okay, bye bye, go off to your desolate wasteland now. You're God of that world.
Mm-hmm.
You're not in this show anymore.
Yeah.
Episode 26. All the diary holders had brighter futures and were happy in this world. Second's past self grew to be a normal teenager and close to her family. Ugh, I hate the fact they just get over the abuse her family gave her.
Well, the thing is, she was younger.
So it was before it got too bad.
Yeah, and they were scared of losing her when that happened. So they changed their ways.
I mean, I guess I just feel like they never got really retribution. I guess they did get murdered in the other timeline, whatever.
Yeah.
Okay. So she kept having a nagging sensation that she was forgetting something, eventually going to the cathedral causality to find what she was forgetting.
She was confronted by the third world's murmur as well as Akise, but eventually reached a room where the first murmur was imprisoned.
Oh, that's where the God Murmur is.
Yeah, and carried the first second's memories.
Oh, okay. So Deus, to punish the God Murmur, gave her the memories of the God that was killed.
Yep.
Okay.
Murmur passed these memories to the third second, and she created a rift to the second world to meet with First. They end up going stargazing together and created a new world in the second universe.
I'm not sure how to feel about that. I mean, I guess it's good because basically a non-traumatized version of finally gets to have a happy relationship. But I don't like it in that basically Yuki still kind of gets the girl in the end. Mm-hmm. But at least he gets a much nicer version of the girl. So now I think she'll actually be a positive influence on him.
Mm-hmm. And she was, because they created the new world together.
Yeah, you see them like struggling to create plant life. And it's like, being gods is hard.
Yeah, yeah. And I assume that could go back to her parents in the third world or whatever.
Oh, and also you're showing a scene where they try to create life and they reset because they fail so many times that they end up accidentally creating murmur duplicates. And so they eventually have like a whole horde of murmurs.
That was funny, yeah.
All right, well, we went a bit long, but this was the show. We think there's a lot of good stuff in here. We've talked about the bad stuff. We tried to acknowledge it, but, it was a good time. Yeah. I wish they were adults, but it was a good time. Mm-hmm. All right. Anything else you want to say, Kira?
You could literally make them 18 or even their early 20s and have it be college, and there would be zero change to the storyline.
Well, there'd be one change, the removal of pedophilia.
Yep.
But otherwise, good characters, good show. Ninth was a surprisingly great character.
Yep.
Oh, we forgot to mention what becomes of her in the third world. She stays a demigod, and she has demigod babies with Nishijima.
Yeah, she married the third world version of Nishijima and had babies with him.
Like, you just see one of the babies floating in the air, just being like, wee.
And the third world version of her is still out there being a terrorist.
Oh, and they comment on it. They're like, wow, the terrorist you is really going at it. And she's just so embarrassed. Like, why did she never change? Why wasn't she like me?
It's very funny.
Okay, we gotta go.
All right.
Bye.
Bye.
Game Theorems is our Twitter.